Hello, everyone. Sorry, I am a couple minutes late. I got caught up in doing something and it was 3 o'clock. So, but here I am just a couple minutes late. I'm going to laugh at myself because that's good to do when you do something wrong. So we're here today, Danielle Burnock at danielleburnock.com and Love Yourself from Survive to Thrive. And I have Tom with me today to read through his story in my book, Because You Matter. And I'm really excited about this, and I apologize for being a couple minutes late. So I'm going to bring Tom in right away here. There we go.
Hello.
And welcome, Tom.
Hey, hi, Danny.
Thank you for joining me on doing this and overcoming all the technology things of being able to find out how to do this on Zoom, with a phone, and for being patient while I was late.
Very, very welcome. I'm glad to do it.
So what made you decide to say yes to this? What did you think when I first asked you if you wanted to read your story with me on Facebook Live?
Well, the first thing usually is whenever anybody asks me to do something new and different, and that is to say no. Because of my Asperger's, it's Asperger's syndrome, also known now as autism. Mm-hmm. I have a very difficult time with trying new things or dealing with change.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, I miss out on a lot of things because anytime somebody throws something new at me, the answer is nope, nope, nope. So I thought, how am I going to overcome this problem? And it dawned on me one time. I thought, you know what? What if when they ask you to do something next time, instead of saying just no as a reflexive response, why don't you ask them if you can wait 4 or 5 days for a response and let me think about it for a while? It's kind of like going into the pool and putting your ankles in the water and let your body get used to the colder water. Oh. Then you go up to your waist and then you dunk your head in the water, and then pretty soon the water's just fine. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, try that stuff. So people would ask me, and I'd say, well, can I have a week, whatever? And some would say, no, I got to know right now. And I'd say, if you got to know right now, the answer is no. But if you can wait, it's yes. So you were kind enough to let me wait. When you brought the project to me and said, would you be interested? I said, would you be willing to let me have a few days to think about it? And you said yes. So I got my ankles wet up to my waist and into my head. And then I said, I think I want to do this. And so that's how it all came to pass.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for doing this. I think people are going to just love hearing your story.
Right.
So I will, we'll get started here, and, feel free to interject when you want to say something. And
all right.
Is how Tom took ownership of his life. If it works, it's the right way to do it. Tom Shea. Tom is an extraordinary man. We met when I lived in Arizona. Had he not told me, I never would have thought he was disabled in any way. Tom was born with cerebral palsy and undiagnosed Asperger's. When he was a baby, the doctor told his mother he would never walk. Tom's mother refused to believe it. Where Tom is now and what he's accomplished is beyond remarkable. In my interview with Tom, he told me how doctors used to separate Asperger's from autism when he was first diagnosed at the age of 46. But
these days in the diagnostic world, they've lumped them together as one disorder, and it's called autism spectrum disorder, or ASD.
Tom refers to it as simply autism, and he told me one of the characteristics is having a fascination with one or two subjects. For Tom, it's sports, particularly baseball and contemporary jazz music. One of the first things that impressed me about Tom is how he took ownership of who he is and how he processes information. When having a conversation with him and something he associates with the autism takes place, he points it out and sometimes chuckles. He's comfortable in his own skin. I find that amazing. Here is a man who would have all the reasons to be uncomfortable, but he's not. His positive nature was instilled in him by his mother early in his life. Positive nature is really an understatement, though. What Tom was given by his mother was a profound treasure that gave him the power to take ownership of his life. I'm flabbergasted at this woman. She was audacious, courageous, and tenacious. Understand, Tom was born in the 50s. Back then,
Women do not go to doctors in white coats and tell the doctors what they can do with their stethoscopes.
I like how what doctors can do with their stethoscopes. We know what people are thinking when they hear that.
You can figure that out for yourself, folks.
A few years ago, Tom told me the story of the first time he crawled. He was about 2 years old. Before that, his mom had been told to just buy him a wheelchair. Instead, she worked with him at home using a creative and progressive technique to cause his brain to register the nerve response. Her friends didn't approve. She didn't care. Tom's dad built a box 3 inches high, and they filled it with crushed granite. They put railings on either side for Tom to hold on to.
My mom would kneel in front of me. She would grab my bare ankles and my bare feet and grind them against the gravel in a walking motion. And it would hurt.
Over and over and over she did this until the day it happened. Tom was in the living room and he saw an extension cord. It captivated him and he went to go get it, crawling for the first time. Tom's mom scooped him up in her arms, grabbed the extension cord, and drove to the doctor's office where she burst into a patient's room to see the doctor. As they were all objecting to her behavior, she launched the cord down the hall, placed Tom gently on the floor, and exclaimed, "Watch!" As Tom happily crawled to the extension cord, jaws dropped. The impossible just took place. Although crawling was an amazing milestone, Tom dreamed of walking, and his mother was right there with him. In the interview, Tom shared his incredible story.
She just wouldn't take no for an answer. And this is how far she took it.
Tom's mom took him for therapy at an Easter Seals clinic to work on walking when he was 2. Wow, I just realized that's the same year you crawled.
Mm-hmm.
You were 2 and you crawled, and she took you right to the Easter Seal thing right after that. It's like she didn't waste any time. Your mom, wow.
Don't waste any time.
Yeah. At that clinic, as he struggled to get his feet to work properly, his mother spoke to everyone in the room, doctors, therapists, everyone. She instructed them that she wouldn't allow any negative words to be spoken while he was working. There would be no, "You can't do that," or "It's too much of a struggle," or anything to get him to quit. She demanded that if they were going to say anything negative, they had to get out of the room.
I don't want him to hear anything negative out of anyone's mouth.
With his tiny hand gripping the bars, his feet dangled beneath him. On the floor laid a ladder. It had fire engine red and black rungs on it. Propped up on either end of the ladder were mirrors. When he struggled, he'd look to his mom for approval. She'd smile, "Keep going," and then direct his attention to the mirrors. She wanted him to focus on the mirrors and not on her. Wow. The mirrors were for visual cues of where his feet were. When a foot went sideways, he could move it straight by seeing where it was and then put it where it was supposed to go. This grueling process went on and on for what felt like forever for Tom. His mom's friends abandoned and ostracized her, telling her to get Tom a wheelchair and forget about all she was doing. But she ignored the negativity. At the clinic, she made sure they never said anything negative to Tom.
They didn't believe it would work, but they never said anything negative.
Tom walked out of the clinic unaided when he was 7. That was 5 years later.
That's right. The last day of therapy, I walked down a stairway by myself. I held onto the railing, one step at a time. When I left, my mother made all the naysayers and therapists that didn't think this was ever going to happen stand at the top of the stairwell and watch me walk down the stairs, all the way to the first floor.
Little 7-year-old Tom took it slow. He didn't stumble or fall, all the way to the bottom and all the disbelievers watching. And then she gave them a verbal thrashing.
Don't ever tell a child what they can and cannot do. You don't know what they could accomplish. And for you, as adults, to talk it down because you think you know better is not right. Maybe they can't do it. Maybe they do have limitations. But you don't know where these limitations lie. And I have limitations today, but they're nowhere near where the professionals thought they were. And to not let a person become all they can be is just not right. And to put negative thoughts and words into a child's mind is a terrible thing to do. Oh, he'll never be able to do this. I don't know why he thinks he's so good. You can't do that. That's like poison. Don't ever do that to your future clients. Don't do that.
That's like my favorite part. I love that. That's the audacity of her doing that was just, it's profound. And I hope they listened to her, because if they did, then it made a difference in other people's lives also.
Yep.
Pardon?
Yes, I just said, yes, you're right. I hope somebody did too. After we left, I never went back to find out because I really didn't care anymore.
Oh, really, it wasn't on your plate. It was on their plate, but they were going to do it. Tom developed the same attitude as his mother of not taking no for an answer. In elementary school, he wanted to play sports, but because of the cerebral palsy and being almost legally blind in one eye, he knew it wasn't going to happen. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, he took ownership of what he could do. He got an idea. With baseball as his favorite sport and living in the suburb of Chicago, he set his sights on the Chicago Cubs. Maybe he could be their bat boy. He asked his parents' permission to write them. They said yes, and he wrote a letter to John Holland.
He was one of the big shots there back in the 60s. He was a general manager.
John Holland wrote Tom back thanking him for his interest, but said he lived too far from Wrigley Field. Although Tom was disappointed, he didn't have his dream to do something with sports. Tom's family moved to Arizona. Soon after he got another idea. He wanted to be a ball boy for the Phoenix Suns. Once again, he wrote a letter. The only name he knew was Joe Prosky, who was the trainer. This time, Tom felt he had leverage, though. He discovered his dad's employer was the Suns' biggest sponsor. In his letter, he was certain to mention that key fact, but they blew him off. Undaunted, Tom called Mr. Prosky's office repeatedly for months, saying how he wrote a letter and asking for a response. Every time he'd get the same
He'll get his mail
answer. Tom was getting frustrated when he got an opportunity.
They had a situation at the Coliseum, which is where the Suns played their games, where they were filming a movie. And they asked people to come down to the stadium there to be fans in the stands. Because it was a basketball-themed movie, they needed people to cheer in the background. So they said, if you'll come, we'll give you 3 free tickets to a Suns game. Well, I'm there.
Before the season started, they called while he was in school. They asked his mother if he could come down to try out for the position of ball boy. Tom made his parents promise to drive him if he got the job. Secretly thinking he wouldn't, they promised. But Tom got the job. There were 41 home games at the Coliseum he'd need a ride to and from.
I was thrilled I got hired. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I go, Mom, you get to drive me to the Coliseum tonight, and Wednesday, and Friday, and Sunday. I was thrilled, but she didn't smile.
I can see why. That's just awesome.
We're in the tank, Mom.
His mother's audacious, courageous tenaciousness operating in Tom empowered him to realize his dream. By it, he was hired for other jobs also. For example, in an interview for a check cashing job.
When I was in the interview for that job, I had the guts to tell the owner who hired me. I said this to his face, quote, "This is one of the smartest things you've ever done. I'm going to be the best employee you've ever had. You just don't know it yet." And then when I went to leave 7 years later, he called me into his office. He waited in his office for 3 hours because he wanted to talk to me so bad. And he said, "I just want you to know, Tom, that 7 years ago when you told me that you'd be the best employee, I thought that was pretty gutsy of this kid. But you know what, Tom? You were right. You're absolutely right. I wish you well as you go on in your career. You're the best employee I've ever hired."
Tom also worked for an MLB team, the Arizona Diamondbacks, running their parking department. For 3 years, he managed their garage, oversaw 30 teenage guys, and dealt with drunken fans. Not bad for a guy who wasn't supposed to be able to crawl, eh? But not every interview Tom went like that. There were times when the symptoms of his autism got the best of him before he knew the cause.
I couldn't figure out why I couldn't do things.
But because he knew he needed a job and that required going on interviews, he pressed through and got better with practice. When Tom was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, he was relieved. All the things he thought made him strange, inability to pick up social cues, maintain eye contact, meltdowns, literalness, and black and white thinking made sense now. All this time, he had a disability and didn't know it. Tom looks back and gives God the credit for all he's accomplished and for the mom he had.
God gave me the right mother. If I hadn't had the mother I had, you probably wouldn't have met me. I'd be in a wheelchair in some rehab place somewhere, I don't know, doing whatever you do. So, you know, God is at the top. God gave me my mother. He knew just who it should be.
Yeah. There is so much more to Tom's story. I can't possibly share it all. 15 years ago, Tom struggled interacting in a small group of 10. When I asked Tom if I could interview him for this book, he had just accomplished another milestone, public speaking. He sat in front of a group of 35 people talking about the aspects of autism. He did this for 45 minutes. He did it so well, they invited him back. Tom was shocked, but graciously accepted. As he walked out of the room and down the hall, Tom felt immense satisfaction. It felt wonderful, and he thanked God. Tom shares his extraordinary positive outlook everywhere he goes. He knows his ability to ignore the negative is a gift he received from his mother, and that most people don't have that. He seeks to put positive energy into everyone he meets.
I give them a little list. You're intelligent, you're beautiful, you're kind, you're loving, you're helpful, or whatever positive attributes that I know that they have, and I verbalize them back to them so they hear it. I want that to go into their ears. Like my mother didn't want the negative to come into mine, so I put positive into theirs. I know I'm a one-man band, but whatever seeds I can plant are worthy of being planted.
Amen.
Whether they germinate or not, that's not my job, so I don't worry about that. but I'm going to constantly, when I see people, give them the positive instead of the negative out there. When you hear it enough over and over again, you'll start to believe it.
Yes. And that's the end of Tom's story. If you're interested in connecting with him more, you get a copy of this book and connect with him in the end notes, connection to him. He's got his email in there. You can write him and maybe even have him speak at a place where you work or minister or something, or you work with a group. But I thank you, Tom, for doing this with me. And we didn't stumble as badly as I did the other days. That's what happens when you read live, you do stumble. That's why when you do an audio book, like this is also available in audio, you record it and you edit it. But we do these live so that you people can feel who we are. You can hear who we are. So when you read this book, you hear our voice, you hear our heart, and you know how much we care about you. And so I want to thank you again, Tom, for being here today. Anything you would like to add to say to people who are watching?
Well, I just wish my people would hear this and take those chances to become what they can be, and don't let people talk you out of your dreams. They don't think you can do it, but to heck with them. You know what you want to do, and you have that fire inside. Don't let anybody put that fire out.
Amen. That's a good word. That's a good word. All right, well, I'll talk to you in just a minute, Tom, before I close this out, okay?
You bet.
Okay, so I want to thank you for watching us today, listening to us today, and hearing Tom. He was on a telephone, and we overcame technology things just to be able to do this. And his story is so important, and you can have him come speak at your church or at your school when we open up again, because things are just starting to do that. And he wants to bring more awareness to the whole autism thing and what people can accomplish. And so get a copy of this book. I will put the link in with this video so that you can get to it quickly. It's available in Kindle, in paperback, and in audiobook. So pick one of those up today. And I'm that lady on the internet who says she loves you, Danielle Burnock at danielleburnock.com, and love yourself from Survive to Thrive. And not sure if I'll be on here tomorrow. We'll see. Shelter in place is over. I was doing these every day, but I'm kind of addicted to you guys now because I love you. So I'll see you again.